The comments and statements made within the show are the opinions of the commentators and their guests, have not been evaluated by the FDA, and are in no way attempt to diagnose, treat, mitigate, cure, or prevent any disease or illness. The contents of the show are not to be construed as medical advice. If you have a health condition or health concern, please contact a licensed, qualified healthcare practitioner.
Oh my, what have you found, Franny? Let's see what they say. Latest and greatest. You found more. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Excellent sleuthing, Fran. Fran, I think this is a new case for the Supplement Super Sleuth. Dig, Franny, dig! Time to go down the rabbit hole and see what we can find. Goodness, where are we? Aha! Take a look at this.
Hi, everyone. Yep, Supplement Sleuth here. I have 4 different segments now to the show. Naturals in the News, which we do a lot of. And I share general info on new research, posted on all different types of health subjects. I also have my favorite things, where I spotlight an herb or a supplement with a deep dive into history, clinical research, and clinical use of the spotlighted subject matter. Also, there's Naturals in the Know, where I interview key thought leaders and successful holistic practitioners from a wide variety of disciplines. And finally, our newest segment entitled What's Old is New Again, where I share historical information on the weird, the lost healing therapies of old that are having a renaissance in an updated modern manner. So, and today, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be focused on an old type of cleansing or purification practice that is having a renaissance. So, cleanse anyone? Right. Traditionally, cleanses were always guided by local herbalists and were an important part of community living. The exploration of our ancient practice can be traced all the way back farther than 2,000 years ago in Egypt, and it's also found in ancient Chinese herbal medicine texts of more than 500 years. Often, fasting practices have been related to religious activities. However, external and internal purification practices were also an active part of hygiene practiced by groups of peoples for overall community health reasons. When purification practices are done safely, they can be a wonderful way to reset your body and reduce toxicity burden. You are not nutty for being interested in purification practice. They're a part of our genetic makeup, basically. We crave support in the righting mechanisms of our body. We crave homeostasis. And you're not doing anything dangerous if you really pay attention to the ancient practices. So I want to walk you through the physiology, some of the more recent scientific support, and the tools of these ancient purification practices. So many people look to purification practices because they aren't necessarily sick medically, but they just don't feel great, right? You may have one or more of these listed issues, right? Just fatigue, general fatigue, indigestion, and other temporary gastrointestinal upsets, food cravings and weight gain, reduced mental clarity, chronic headaches, low libido. Maybe you feel just flat, like blah, right? The blahs. Or you have just general joint discomfort. Or you just are feeling like you need a reset. And you may have seen your primary care physician and they may have done a battery of tests and you were told you were normal, right? But you just don't feel like yourself. Maybe you've heard mixed information about cleanses. Maybe your friends have done one and they've raved about it, but you've also heard that they can be dangerous. So let me help to dispel some myths and some naysaying and give you a little bit more in-depth information to make an educated decision if it's right for you or not. Just keep in mind that these practices are ancient, okay? And we've evolved with all kinds of external and internal purification practices. And there's a reason for that. Cleanses are traditional, they're safe, they're relevant, they're rewarding. The chosen foods, broths, herbs, bathing practices, and body care techniques have been handed down in herbal traditions for thousands of years. These methods have been used by millions of people safely and effectively to purify their bodies and their minds, and to assist in easing discomfort and reduce the symptoms of aging and poor diet or poor dietary choices. And that can happen, right? We just want to live and have some fun, and sometimes we overindulge, and then we try and figure out how to kind of ameliorate that, if you will. There is solid evidence that our food, water, and air are introducing toxins into our body that may be becoming a burden and may be instrumental in disease processes. So as an illustration, this particular study that you see here in this PowerPoint collected blood samples that were taken from the umbilical cords of healthy delivered infants. Most people believe that the mother's body, and most specifically the placenta and umbilical cord, completely protect the unborn infant from environmental toxins. But this study that was done in Canada, and also there were other universities in Australia and other parts of across Canada that also added to this study. The chemicals that you see listed here were found in the samples of the blood. And these women were considered healthy, and their newborns were considered healthy, and yet they still had a very long list of environmental toxins. So just a few of them. If you're not watching the PowerPoint and you're just listening to the podcast and you can't see the slide that I've shared here, just a few of these toxins that showed up in the blood samples were mercury. They tested for it and they found it in all the blood samples. Where does it come from? Mercury amalgams, coal-fired power plants, mercury-containing products. It develops in the food chain. It accumulates in the food chain. There's nothing really that breaks it down, and it harms our brains. It harms the development and the function of our infants and our children's brains. Polyaromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs, tested for 18. They found 9. These show up from burning gasoline and garbage. They're linked to cancer. They accumulate in the food chain. Polybromated dibenzodioxins and furans. They tested for 12. They found 7 in the blood samples. Contaminants and bromated flame retardants, pollutants, and byproducts from plastic production and incineration. Bromines or bromides are also added to flours, breads, and cereals. They accumulate in the food chain, and they're very toxic to the endocrine system. Right? So that's just 2 out of this crazy long list. Organochloride, pesticides tested for 28, found 21, including DDT, even though it's not allowed to be used in this country, in the United States. They still found it in the blood samples that came out of the umbilical cords from delivered healthy infants. Okay, so just so you get a sense of it, if it's really building up in people who are considered healthy and considered very low exposure rate, where is this all coming from? And why is it being found in the bodies of healthy people? Well, the white adipose tissue is the organ where the body sequesters chemistries that it can't detoxify or degrade without extra assistance. So oddly enough, the reservoir in the body is commonly known as stubborn fat and mostly seen around the abdomen, but it's in other places as well. And in this manner, the adipose tissue becomes its own seep. It's like a hazmat dump, if you will, whereby there's a vicious cycle that's created of inflammation and endocrine disruption. And without special attention and extra assistance, the body cannot rid itself of this sequestered material. Just doing a fast or a reduced calorie intake does not necessarily unlock and neutralize these stored toxins. There are herbal strategies that unlock, neutralize, and eliminate stored toxins, which we'll talk about in detail a little later on in our class. But that's why the herbalists were guiding these purification practices, because it's not just, well, I think I'll just eat lightly today, or I think I'll fast for 24 to 48 hours. There's more to this than that, because we have to unlock and neutralize these toxins that are building up in the white adipose tissue. So does that make sense? The medical community sometimes scoffs at these detoxification practices or these cleanses. They often look down their nose at this, or sometimes they'll even say, don't do that, that's very dangerous. And in some ways, we lose credibility when we misname purification practice detoxes. The medical definition of detoxification is seen here on this slide and is done in hospital or in a clinic with staff to oversee the person who's going through the drug or toxic detoxification. So it is the medical community's agreed understanding that alcohol poisoning or drug overdose or chemical poisoning and the medical treatment of these acute conditions are called detoxes. And they can be life-threatening to those coming off hard drugs or done without medical supervision. So, and I agree with this definition. But just to keep in mind, the ancient purification herbal practices were not for acute poisoning, okay, whether it's auto intoxication or an accidental consumption of a mushroom in the wild that was unhealthy. Those we need different kinds of strategies than the ones that were done in days of old. And I do agree that the definition of detoxification should belong to the medical profession, right? What we're doing is not a medical detox. It's a gentle purification practice which has been done for thousands of years to help us regain homeostasis and our vibrant health. Also, I do want to say that medical professionals may say that cleanses are not necessary since our body is self-cleaning, right? And to some extent, it is. Our bodies, absolutely. We have so many organs that are related to discharging the end result of metabolism. An exhale has carbon dioxide. Urine has all different kinds of chemistries, uric acid and other ammonia and other things that are a part of breaking down of food, and getting rid of basic toxicity. However, our bodies do need assistance now since our environments contain chemicals and compounds that are confounding to our normal systems. And in addition to our modern eating and working habits, I believe now more than ever, it's essential to periodically practice purification practices or cleanses. Okay? And according to ancient herbal traditions, we have the opportunity to reset our body 4 times a year. Each season has a different type of cleanse, and that allows us to purify different organs. Although we truly are purifying our whole body every time we cleanse, the focus is seasonally appropriate and assists our body's natural inclination to create this vibrant health through homeostasis, and each season is technically assigned paired organs. So the spring is the season of liver and gallbladder, and that's the element of wood, and wood is about growth, right? And that's springtime. And in ancient herbal traditions, the liver is called the general, right? This is the boss of everything, and it rules over the blood and the sinews are our connective tissue that holds tendons to bone and bone to bone, and our fascia that kind of keeps our organs held together, right? Traditionally, there are emotions that are related to the liver. The positive ones are industry, or being really productive, making and taking decisive action, setting and maintaining goals, multitasking, right? And when the liver is not optimal, inability to make clear decisions, or feeling like you're in a rut, frustration, depression, emotional outbursts, and anger are much more frequent in our lives. So that's a really good reason to kind of consider a spring cleanse, right? And it may be obvious to you how the combination of diet, lifestyle, and environment has the quality of the perfect storm on our overall well-being. Our livers bear the brunt of everything we come into contact with, and that's not an exaggeration. It is customary in herbal healing traditions to take time to purify the organs of digestion, especially the liver, because of its role in the purification of our blood. Blood, rich in nutrients and prepared by the liver, is sent to the heart, where it will be distributed to the rest of the body. If the liver is working optimally, the blood is clean and nutrient rich. If the liver is not able to purify the blood in some way, for some reason or many reasons, eventually this can harm the heart and all your organs, tissues, and fluids. And that makes sense, right? That's just pretty obvious. The liver receives blood that is nutrient rich but oxygen poor from the portal vein, which comes from the small intestines, the large intestines. That's a curious thing, right? Spleen and pancreas. What that means is that the blood is returned to the liver from those organs. So if those organs become imbalanced in any way, the liver bears the brunt, trying to clean the blood and fluids coming from the area, and then mixing it, the great mixologist, with blood that's coming from the lungs, to then send all of that to the heart. So when things are pretty, like just for one example, the portal return system from the large intestine, that's an interesting thing, because our large intestine is kind of a big septic tank. But we also make B vitamins there, and that's part of why there's a return. But that can also become auto-intoxication, right? Auto-intoxication is when your body is just burdened with all this toxicity, and it keeps being returned back to the liver to then go back out to the other organs. Your liver also produces bile and sends this precious fluid, that's the green here on the slide. And bile is the most precious fluid in the body. We don't make a lot of it, but it helps us to emulsify our fats and helps us with digestion. And it is often part of the return from the large intestine. So the liver also produces powerful immune complexes, and it's a major part of your immune system among the multitude of other tasks. So the liver's role in purification has been divided into two phases. One is called cytochrome P450. This complex multi-tiered phase is part of our enzyme antioxidant capacity. Keep in mind, every cell in our body goes through similar self-detoxification to what the liver does during this phase. Phase 2 is conjugation pathways such as methylation, acetylation, sulfation, glucuronidation. Now, I am oversimplifying, absolutely. And I'm trying to give you a sense of the complexity of this and why, and it's another real reason why we need to support this hardworking organ to neutralize and detoxify our body. And it is the job of these enzyme pathways to render metabolized hormones and internal and external toxic compounds neutralized. Helps to pass them out of the body either through the stool or the urine, and that's if everything goes well. Phase 1, or Cyp 450, is very important in pharmaceutical research. Okay, this is where drug interactions can occur, and the ups and downs of this part of the liver function can be likened to seesaw activity. Okay, We call this homeostasis. Homeostasis is that balancing act that our body does. Psych 450 is always in action with everything we eat, breathe, and produce, but most especially food, drinks, and drugs that we consume. And many foods and herbs have a drug-like upregulating or downregulating effect, phase 1 and phase 2. For example, here's a good example. Cruciferous vegetables, coffee, tea, and avocados have an upregulating effect. And these avocado, tea, coffee, cruciferous, they have a powerful upregulating effect. So it's rapid and aggressive. Grapefruit juice, soy, and nicotine have an inhibiting effect on Psych 450. And they're drug-like, right? Very rapid down regulating effect and aggressive. So trying to follow, that's just 6-7 things in your diet, right? Trying to follow that phase 1 or phase 2 with every food gets a little convoluted and confusing, and I wouldn't recommend it, okay? These foods adjust different phases powerfully, maybe too much sometimes. And the pharmaceutical industry is really responsible for testing for drug interactions and for how long a drug stays in the bloodstream or is detoxed through these pathways. So foods, herbs, and natural substances can throw a monkey wrench in the efficacy or safety of drugs being administered by either getting rid of the drugs too fast or allowing it to stay in the body too long, depending upon the regulation of Psych 450, okay? And that's one of the reasons why people in medicine get very nervous when they hear, oh, I want to do a cleanse. Are you sure? You know, you're on a couple of prescriptions and we have to be careful and we don't think it's safe. So they have a good argument, right? And our pharmacists are responsible for understanding known drug interactions. Also, herbalists who are well-trained clinical herbalists will understand drug and herb interactions. We have to memorize them. We have to understand what we're doing. And very well-versed in this aspect of liver function. This is also why there's trepidation, right? And it's why you shouldn't just say, well, I'm going to just do a cleanse. Your cleanses should be guided, right? You should have somebody who knows what they're doing to just oversee everything, right? Are you on any prescriptions? Okay. Is there a drug herb interaction with that prescription? Are there certain food drug interactions with your prescription? So, but in spite of the concern, it still might be a good idea to consider controlled purification practices. So I really think, in the best of all things in life, that an opportunity to do a guided cleanse with a clinical herbalist or with a naturopath or with a chiropractor who knows what they're doing really could be a wonderful thing for you and for me. So the liver is a really dense looking organ, and at first glance it seems like an undefined blob, but under a microscope the structure of the liver becomes very obvious. Each cell is linked together to make the solid-like liver tissue. Each cell works independently. So, and the reason why we're talking about the structure of the liver is because how something is structured will tell you how it works. Each cell in the liver is a microfilter. Isn't that amazing? So you heard me right. It's an anatomical and physiological fact. Every single liver cell is an ingenious microfilter. But what do we know about filters, folks, right? What do we know? You got to clean them on a regular basis. And nature normally, has a lot of redundancy in how she keeps things healthy, right, in our body. Like everything in our body has redundant activity. However, there can be overwhelming situations, right? The liver is a filter. It can get clogged. What are the clogs that can occur? Well, a clog, just like in your kitchen sink, can be created by excess fat globules or polyps. A clog can be created by fibrinogen formation. It's a type of scar tissue. A clog can be created by mineral deposits, which eventually come together to make stones. And if you think about it, it's just like your kitchen sink, right? Hair, grease, somebody emptied their shoe. This has happened in my house. Somebody emptied their shoe. They were out for a walk. They emptied the shoe in the sink. And there were stones in there. Not big stones, but, with the hair and the grease and the stones, you have a clog. And isn't that interesting? And if you think about it, right, it's really not any different, right? It's just not any different. And it doesn't get any more complicated than that. Makes sense, right? So we have viruses that can cause injury to the liver, and the liver starts making fibrinogen, that kind of, and if you drink alcohol every night, that every single night, that can cause enough injury or enough of a situation where you start to make what's called fatty liver. Okay, so the next slide that I have is a little bit graphic. I have images of gallstones. I actually have an image of a fatty liver, a liver that has fat clogs in it. And it also has a stone that's caught in the duct, not in the gallbladder duct, but in the actual liver duct inside of the liver. So sometimes people have their gallbladders removed and they still have the same pain. So it's not outside of possibility, if you will. So the National Institutes of Health in 2020 said that 30% of the United States population currently has what's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. 30% of us. Liver fibrosis is a major cause of morbidity and mortality worldwide due to chronic viral diseases. Also more recently, from fatty liver disease associated with obesity. And a quick note about gallstones. They can get blocked, not just from stones, but you can get inflammation in that duct, and it causes pain and dysfunction. But herbal medical traditions keep the liver clean from stones, polyps, sediment blockages by purification practices. Yes, can you go to your doctor? Can you go to the hospital? Can you have ultrasound blast the stones? Absolutely. But wouldn't it just be great to every springtime do your little cleanse? Those mineral deposits and the mineralization that starts in the liver can be broken down. Okay. And yes, the bile is made in the liver, but regular maintenance of our filters can get rid of that mineral silt, and even sometimes little stones that can become a problem for the gallbladder and the liver. Stones can be really small or really large. They're usually irregular. They can be jagged. That's where the pain is, right? Keep in mind that if the gallbladder has stones and the liver has calculus and the stones as well, again, you can take the gallbladder out, but what about the calculus inside of the liver? Okay, so that is something to think about if you're considering this, right? So, the liver, isn't the liver self-cleaning, right? Doesn't the liver regrow itself? I heard, right? This is a lot of people say, I heard that you can regrow a liver. If you cut out half the liver, it'll regrow. Some people will say, well, I no longer have a gallbladder. Do I still have to do a liver cleanse? And if I do a liver cleanse, do I cleanse my whole body? Well, the liver cleanses itself through detoxification pathways. That is true. But it could use some support under duress or when we have excess body burden, which most of us do. The liver is able to regenerate its own tissue through what's called cellular turnover, and an unimpeded liver will turn every cell over in about 8-month period of time. That's if there's no toxicity, no dietary indiscretions, no bad stress, plenty of sleep, right? But it also will go through what's called fibrinogen formation if it's concerned and it's overreacting and it's really damaged, and that's not a good thing. If you're missing a gallbladder, all the more important for you to support a healthy liver. Your entire body gets a little purification when you do a liver cleanse, so better to keep the filter clean by regular maintenance, cleanings, purgings of the pipe, so to speak, instead of having to replace your liver. Agreed? That's a big deal. Don't think that just because your liver is really diseased that the liver transplant's going to be effective for you or give you a long life, right? So it's really important to consider a safe and effective spring cleanse. And there are many indicators that taking time to focus on supporting and enhancing your liver and gallbladder's detoxification is a smart strategy to a healthy long life. That makes sense, right? Cleanses are not fasts. There's nothing wrong with fasting per se, done correctly and under the right circumstances. Fasting can be beneficial. If you have some interest in fasting, I highly recommend that. There's an app called Zero. I think it's excellent, and there are people there who'll support you if you're interested in fasting. But again, cleanses are not fasts. The detoxification system in the liver highly dependent on proper nutrient support for optimal functioning. Fasting or poor nutritional support during a cleansing program has many adverse health effects, including decreased energy production, brain fog, mood, and sleep difficulties. Most importantly, there's a breakdown of lean tissue that happens in long-term fasting or fasting more than 48 hours, okay? If you're older, that can happen quicker. If you're over the age of 40, fasting may cannibalize your precious muscle mass and may not be a beneficial long-term strategy for those who are aging and at risk for muscle and bone loss, okay? And if purification practices could still be useful in an attenuated manner, okay? Metabolic and liver cleanses are energy dependent processes, okay? And maintenance of adequate energy supply is crucial. And fasting sometimes doesn't offer enough energy to do that. In addition, more dietary fiber than usual needs to be available to assist in carrying away toxins that have been unlocked from your fatty tissues. You have to capture it and sweep it away. And in addition to that, there are certain amino acids you absolutely have to have available with B vitamins in order to increase these detoxification and enzyme pathways to unlock the body burden, neutralize the components, and rid the body of it. So fasting can be great for some people, younger people probably more appropriately, but it really on a long-term basis can be problematic. So cleanses are not fast. Cleanses are a little bit different, and they're energy dependent, and we find a way to create that energy dependence, right? We give energy to the body during a cleanse. Our regular diet can include foods, just a regular diet, and spice herbs that can assist in gentle support of cleansing of the liver. You decide, well, okay, I'm not going to do a purification practice. I think it's too much for me, but I can focus on foods and herbs that'll support gentle detoxification. But sometimes you might think, I need more vigorous purification, okay? And that's where you start to work with guided cleanses. Vigorous purification practices look like this. We use very specific foods and very specific herbs in a very specific manner for vigorous purification practices. We think of this in 3 phases, but they're happening all at the same time. Phase 1, with the assistance of herbs and certain kinds of foods, we transform fat-soluble toxins to an unlocked state. And sometimes when we do that, they're more toxic than they were originally when they came in the body, which is why we need those special herbs and special foods to quickly neutralize, which is phase 2. We're neutralizing these toxic molecules, we're capturing them, and then we're going to get them out of the body in the phase 3, where these now solubilized toxins leave the cell and leave the body. We eliminate them through the colon and the kidneys with the assistance of these increased dietary fibers, an increase in fluids, and an increase in herbs and compounds that can do this for us. So it's really important to remember that vigorous purification practice is very intelligently crafted. It's guided by somebody who knows what they're doing. Clinical herbalists are certainly trained, often trained. It's traditional in traditional herbal practice to guide cleanses. And this is the type of thing that we're thinking about: unlocking, neutralizing, and eliminating toxins that have been stored or kept away from our very important nervous system, our heart, and our organs. Our body puts them in the fat, and then you go to lose the fat, and there they are wandering around again. So again, very specifically, these purification practices are designed in order to protect you while you're trying to get rid of that adipose tissue that has just been stubborn. Okay. Now, amino acids and proteins are crucial for increasing phase 2 detoxification pathway in the liver and in each and every cell. Amino acids such as methionine, glutamine, cysteine, tyrosine, taurine are all important building blocks for enzyme pathways which initiate these different types of detoxification. Without these critical dietary components, we would not be able to thoroughly detoxify the multitude of chemicals that we are exposed to and that we have put in our fatty tissue. It's a tricky business getting enough complete protein without overdoing saturated fats or other types of inherent toxic buildup that occurs in animals that are higher on the food chain. So animal protein has all the amino acids, but it's higher in the food chain, so it often can have a lot more toxins. So today we can choose to take specific amino acids involved in detoxification pathways, or we can also take complex vegetable proteins that are enhanced through nutritional profiling to do this. And some, very few, but some have been studied and proven effective in increasing these detoxification pathways. So it's always really important to do your homework to find out which types of proteins will help you do this. In 2017, there was a human pilot. It was a clinical trial, a pilot trial that was initiated to determine if an intervention of a particular protein powder targeted endotoxemia, which is toxicity inside of the body, and also targeted reduced obesity markers and pain markers. So to my knowledge, there is no organic protein powder that has undergone human clinical trial to determine if it simultaneously improved markers for obesity and pain and also decreased endotoxins until now. And the results were really promising and were as follows. After 12 weeks, participants as a group significantly improved body composition parameters, body fat, fat mass, and waist and hip circumference. They significantly improved in several secondary outcomes, including levels of lipopolysaccharides and zonulin. Zonulin is related to leaky gut, so it actually decreased leaky gut, and decreased leptin, which is related to voracious appetite or runaway appetite. Those were all noted. It also decreased endotoxins substantially. So the results demonstrated the improvements in pain interference, and functional fitness. And upon completion, all participants rated this program with this protein powder favorable, with a high likelihood of continuing and even recommending. And I think it's really wise to choose evidence-based protein formulas to use during cleanses, since without the presence of amino acids, we cannot thoroughly cleanse. And that's the problem with just fasting, right? Even though in some cases a person needs to be fasted, it's not always the case here with a cleanse. I certainly don't choose that. When we do a liver cleanse, what we look for in herbs and foods is the ability to dissolve fats, break up mineral deposits, and break down fibrinogen formation, right? Herbal cholagogues break up fatty deposits, and litholytics are what we call the stone breakers. They break up mineral deposits and assist in the movement of accumulated fat globules and sediment out of the liver cells. Many herbs are antiviral and antifibrotic, and in using them, we break up scarring while reducing the inflammation that causes the liver to make fibrotic tissue in the first place. Herbs multitasks, and herbs have been used for thousands of years in purification practices, and I certainly use them. The first and foremost is the Asian or Chinese herb called Bupleurum or Chai Hu. And as you can see here, Bupleurum has many activities. It's antiviral, antiparasitic. Either of those can damage the liver cells, rendering filtration and purification unoperable in that section of the liver tissue if that happens. Bupleuram's many features include removal of debris left over from cellular homeostasis. It also is excellent at assisting the liver in breaking down hormone metabolism, gets rid of dead or damaged cellular material. It is a powerful vacuum cleaner for liver cells. It improves the filtering capacity of this incredible organ called our liver. It also increases your body's autophagy, which is only seen during one other time, and that's during fasting, which is why a lot of people fast. Okay, they fast because of autophagy, and autophagy is our body's way of getting rid of damaged or cells that have run amok. You can call them cancer cells, but they're just cells that are aberrant, and autophagy gets rid of them. So Bupleurum is one of the best herbs to use during purification practices because it mimics fasting without fasting. I love the herb. I think it's a really important herb in our purification practices. Dandelion root, one of the first flowers of spring, is, and I love this flower, and I know a lot of people hate dandelions. It's really sad. Bright yellow, grows almost everywhere in North America, and actually in Europe as well. Traditionally, the root was used for medicinal purposes, but the greens added to an early spring salad or cooked with other greens can also be useful during a liver cleanse. Research supports the traditional use of dandelion root for liver health and continues to be a safe choice for those wishing to increase dredging and purification of the liver. These studies, dandelion root is shown to exert its effect on fatty acids, reducing fat globules in liver cells. Dandelion root also contains inulin, which is a first-rate prebiotic, great for the small intestine, and so soothing and gently cleansing the intestines along with the liver. Dandelion root can also reduce fibrotic formations in the liver cells, as well as assisting in the production of new and healthy liver cells. That little weed has so much power. We should start digging up our yards as long as you haven't used chemicals in your grass, right? Milk thistle seed is a Western herb that has been regarded as a first-rate liver tonic. Now, anything that is tonic tonifies and actually supports healthy new cellular growth. Very recent research corroborates this historical empirical herbal knowledge, citing that milk thistle seed protects the liver against damage. It also is able to protect the kidneys and the brain equally. They have been used traditionally, all of the herbs, right? Coriander is also known as cilantro, is a staple in South American cooking. It's an excellent lymph and blood purifier. It effectively chelates mercury out of fluids. Methylmercury is of particular concern. Evidence points to cilantro as an effective means of detoxifying both inorganic and methyl or bound mercury. Okay, so coriander or cilantro, what a great thing to add to your diet. Red clover has been used as a blood and lymph purifier in eclectic herbalism for hundreds of years. Red clover is well supported by scientific research as an effective detoxifying agent for both men and women. Oftentimes, a red clover is associated with women's health and hormones, but this top study indicates its effectiveness for men's health as well. And in this case, it was prostate health. So great for both men and women, which most herbs are. They're non-gender specific. Okay. Now, during cleanses or purification practices, there's no alcohol, there's no coffee, no caffeinated drinks, no bubbly water, no nicotine either. I'm sorry to say, coffee and caffeinated drinks are really drug-like. They're strong. And when you stop taking them, you go through a mild detox effect. You'll get a headache and body aches. It's very common. You get grumpy. Okay. So, I always tell people, if you're going to do purification practice, it's a really good idea to add a day, 24 to 48 hours on, where you just focus on kicking coffee. Now, I know you're probably thinking there's nothing wrong with coffee. Research says that coffee is actually good for you. But coffee is very drying. It has a lot of alkaloids. These alkaloids pressure the liver. And it's a drug. And what we're trying to do is just soothe our organs for however long we're doing our purification practice, whether it's 3 days, 7 days, nothing more than 14 days, right? Nothing more than 2 weeks. It's really not helpful. But I think it's really important to just make a promise to yourself that you're just going to switch it up. I love coffee too, everybody. So, just do yourself a huge favor and say, I'm just going to abstain. Prepare yourself for the headache. Drink lots of water. There's this Buddha Zen cleanse tea that's really nice to drink. Or if you really, really love the taste of coffee, but you're saying, okay, I'm going to kick it for a week, just so I can just rest my liver. You can try this organic dandy blend. It's excellent. It has chicory, and that chicory is a great prebiotic. Also has dandelion in it. So it's a great liver detox on top of tasting that kind of smoldering chicory type flavor. And for those of you who love a hot cup of roasted taste, but you're kicking the coffee, but you need an energy boost, you can try the Om Morning Energy Blend. It's actually a medicinal mushroom. These are not mushrooms that give you yeast infection, but they're a mushroom that gives you energy, and it has a really deep, dark flavor. You can add a little shilajit to it, and it will really give you that smoky kind of coffee flavor. And it'll give you some lasting energy too. So I get it. You're probably worried if you say, well, man, I'm doing a purification practice, I don't want to give up coffee. How about if I just have black coffee? Just say no. Okay? For a week. The other thing that purification practices do is they really underscore the importance of opening all the exit routes, right? You can't purify if you're plugged up, right? So gently scrubbing the skin, getting the dead skin cells off, and opening the pores. Some people like to do sauna. Nothing wrong with that, but if you've never done sauna and you're starting a purification practice, the heat, and some people are heat intolerant. So if you're not heat intolerant, it's really good. Hot shower. Do a dry brushing before you get in the hot shower. Take all that dead skin off. Open up the skin. Get the skin to breathe. You need to flush out the other big route. We call the large intestine, or the end of the large intestine, the big gate. So we want to make sure that's not obstructed in any way, or you don't have a lot of material, kind of hanging out in the colon. So just like you would prepare for a colonoscopy, you would open the big gate by just flushing or purging out the intestines. And you would only do that the day before. You can give yourself a little herbal enema the morning of, and some people go and they do a whole colon hydrotherapy. just to prepare. It's really important that you prepare your kidneys, your large intestine, and your skin for the detoxification process. You gotta, like I said, open all the exit routes. It's historically accurate to do all of that, and it also makes a lot of darn good sense, right? So how long do you have to do this for? Historically, in the text, the spring cleanses were anywhere between 14 and 21 days long. So that's 2 to 3 weeks. But cell turnover is more complete in that 2-week time frame, but I find it really hard to do in our modern day. And I would rather people just take a week out of their busy life in spring and just do it, right? Do it for a week. Just say, I'm going to do this for a week, and I'm going to have a guided cleanse with a clinical herbalist for a good week and be done with it. Some people love that 2-week time frame. They say the first week is like a warm up, and that second week is like, wow, right? They become euphoric. They feel lighter than they've ever felt in their life. They just feel their mind is clear. It's not recommended to cleanse past 21 days. There's no reason for it, and in fact, to make you weak. So it can exhaust the body's resources and be more detrimental than restorative. So it's never recommended to do it more than 3 weeks maximum. Most of the time it's a week. 2 weeks is like ideal. Think about it. If you have 52 weeks in a year, 2 weeks, that's 50 weeks. You can do whatever you want. It's just 2 weeks. Or it's just a week. So it's 51 weeks. You can do whatever you want 1 week. You apply some discipline in your life, right? Not bad. So how else would you know? How do you know? Do I have body burden? Do I have endotoxicity? Well, you can figure that out really easily when you take this really good. This is a bona fide toxicity questionnaire. It'll give you a fairly good idea of how much toxicity you're carrying around. And secondly, and I know this sounds so complicated and strict, but yes, you got to give up your favorite things, your coffee and all that stuff. But you have to think of it this way, that if you do have body burden, you're giving your body a rest on things that makes it struggle and work too hard, and just focusing on giving it lots of support to just clean up house, right? If you've ever cleaned your own house, it's like, okay, I'm taking the next 3 hours and I'm just going to bust a move and get it done. And that's really what we're doing here. So think of it this way. If you follow a guided cleanse really well, and you take the recommended herbs, and you do it in the way where you give up these things that are just burdening you a little bit, and you dredge out your liver and your gallbladder 1 week a year, a sacrifice out of 52, it really isn't a lot, right? And look, you can modify the cleanse. Talk to your clinical herbalist, talk to your naturopath, talk to your chiropractor, talk to your professional person who's guiding you in your purification practice, okay? You can modify the cleanse from year to year, go a little longer, or if you just can't manage, you're like having a rough year with it, because every year it's a different experience. You can start, you can end it early. You can kind of like, okay, that was tough for me. Your mother died that year, and you say, well, I'm just going to do purification practice, but it's just too hard. Then you can just ease out of it, right? Sometimes people say, well, I just can't manage it because I don't want to give everything out, or I have previous social engagement that require me to be at dinners or celebrations, or the holidays are coming, right? There's always modifications that you can do that will still help you release the stubborn body burden and help your body to purify yourself, and you can still navigate your life. Okay, so take the toxicity test. And by the way, I have this on my website, also social media. I have links to take the toxicity test. It's don't do it if you don't need it. I mean, if you're feeling amazing and your health is remarkable, don't torture yourself, right? But if you know something's off and your body's really off, take the toxicity test and see if it's really the time to do a spring cleanse. Okay, don't wait till next year if this is the year that you are going to take care of yourself. Your goals are really important. Your health goals are really important. And I want to make sure your goals are realistic and attainable. And I want to make sure you're all safe and that you don't have negative side effects, and that if you're on prescription medication because you have a condition, that we modify your cleanse correctly in a way that allows you to stay on your prescription and still have some purification practice and good. No, I wouldn't want any negative side effects. Okay, so if you're going to register for any cleanse that I'm giving, there's a short questionnaire that includes your current health status and any medications that you've been prescribed by your physician. We don't monkey with any of that, but there's always a way around it. Your health information is always protected if you're going to share it with me, if you decide you're going to come and do a spring cleanse with my group. I do need to know so I can modify your cleanse if needs be. And I always do for people who are on prescriptions. And a guided cleanse is the way to go. Creating more safety and ease for you to just let go, right? That's what this is all about, is letting go, getting your body to let go. Okay. So, just a couple of other things. Now that you know more about the crazy long history of purification practices and internal cleanses. And if you'd like to take that toxicity questionnaire again, to see if you have any body burden, or to join a group doing a guided spring cleanse, you can follow me on any of the social media. I'm on TikTok, Herbal Answers with Nancy Angelini, or Instagram and Facebook. I'm at Water's Edge Wellness, and you can sign up and do a spring cleanse. I offer them until the first week of June. We have to be all done by June 21st, and the reason for that is it's summertime, and it's small intestine and heart in the summer, and so liver cleanse time is the energy around the liver and the gallbladder. According to ancient practices, do I have science on that? Not yet, but we will. But the liver and gallbladder, the energy around those organs is really coming to a close, and we move into a different type of cleanse in the summertime. So if you'd like, just come hang out with us. You can do your cleanse for a week, or you can do it for 2 weeks, and we would love to have you here at Water's Edge Wellness and with Supplement Super Sleuth. You're probably wondering who I am. Maybe you already know who I am. My name is Nan, and I've had a complementary and alternative health and herbal clinic on and off, full-time or part-time, for more than 30 years. I've focused on difficult to treat conditions, and I've also been a spokesperson and an educator in the natural products industry for more than 25 years in my life. And you can connect with me in person by going to my website at www.watersedgewellness.com. And I'm the Water's Edge Wellness that's in Massachusetts. There's a couple other things, one in Canada, there's one it's either in Oregon or California, but I'm here in Massachusetts. And by reaching out to me through social media sites on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, you can find me as a Supplement Super Sleuth on YouTube as well. And we'll have links to the toxicity test and also to sign up for spring cleanse if you wish. And if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to and like our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok for Supplement Super Sleuth. Please share our podcast with interested friends and families, and let us know if there's something you'd like to hear me talk about by adding comments, or if there's someone you want me to have on the show. I'd be happy to reach out to them and invite them to be a part of our Naturals in the Know. And with that, I'll say take good care, and I'll see you really soon.
Well, Super Sleuths, we've conducted a very thorough investigation of this case, and we've learned a lot. Fran, you can show us the way home now. What are you doing? Fran, you're amazing! We're home! Tune in in again for the next Supplement Sleuth adventure. Take good care, and Fran and I will see you soon. Say goodbye, Fran.